to Our Future is Kind, a podcast exploring how we build the future we want to live in, one kind act at a time. I'm your host, Michael G. Neese, president of Our Future is Kind, and your trusted companion as we search out kindness strategies we can use in our everyday lives. Together, as we chase the idea of building a kinder future, we will interview experts in kindness, team building, human motivation, corporate culture building, relationships, plus politicians, artists, and those with a vision for a healthy and kind future, one we all want to live in and deserve to enjoy together. In addition to interviews, we will consider positive depictions of humanity's future in art, literature, movies, and media. And we will issue kindness challenges each week, give an update about Our Future is Kind, the company, and what it's doing to stay true to its mission. So, let's dive in. Welcome, everybody, to Our Future is Kind podcast. Today's guest is an amazing and inspiring leader, and let me just tell you a little bit about him. Jeff Harmon is a coach, consultant, and speaker dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their fullest potential. Through his company, Brilliance Within Coaching and Consulting, Jeff partners with leaders to transform challenges into opportunities for growth, leveraging a unique blend of deep insight, practical strategies, and unwavering belief in human potential. Jeff's journey is as inspiring as it is unique. Diagnosed with a neurological condition that has reshaped his life, Jeff has embraced his own impossible by using a wheelchair and setting out to conquer Mount Kilimanjaro, a testament to his message that what seems impossible is often the starting line for extraordinary transformation. This mission is at the heart of My Impossible, Jeff's initiative to inspire others to redefine their limits and pursue bold, meaningful goals. With nearly 20 years of experience coaching leaders in Fortune 500 companies, guiding cultural transformation, and championing personal growth, Jeff's work combines the strategic with the deeply personal. His stories of resilience and hope offers listeners practical tools and heartfelt encouragement to lead authentically, live courageously, and tackle their own impossible challenges. Jeff Harmon, welcome to Our Future is Kind.
Thanks, Michael. Really glad to be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I love reading about what you are up to and how you bring inspiration to the world. And so I invited you onto this show because I know that you also have a very deeply kind heart. But I've just given you, your introduction to everybody here who's listening and watching. But I want you to tell us, what do you feel like, are the qualities that make you you? Like, how do you tell people about you?
Yeah, it's a really great question, Michael. The word that I often use and that I try to live into every day is genuineness. I try to practice and to lean into what you could call it authenticity. I prefer the word genuine. And whether that be in my coaching practice or speaking or my nonprofit, my impossible, serving my team, really that's something that I strive for. And, there's lots of words that you can connect to that, heart-based, servant. And I think it comes back to this desire to be genuine and to connect out of that, that spirit of genuineness.
Definitely in the conversations that you and I've had, I've definitely felt a warmth and that sort of genuine feeling about you. I don't feel like you're ever putting on airs or pretending to be something. So just give us a little bit of background, though, about what your journey has been. Very curious to hear.
So, professionally speaking, my first act was in the field of managing projects in on the IT side of financial service businesses. Did that straight out of school in the mid 90s, and then made a career out of that. Somewhat unexpected to be in that field. That I share with my girls, my daughters, all the time, that dad never spent a single day using his degree in his professional life. So I'd say that to them to give them, to put them at ease about their own journey. So I have a finance degree, but never spent a single day in finance. And so that was 17 years of my life, and then began the journey around 2006 into coaching, and not with a clear vision of what that would be. Just I had been served by a coach in my professional life, and just felt that that was a path that I wanted to take. But as often is the case, our dreams are trumped by golden handcuffs, at least from a vocational perspective. You know, I had um, a very demanding job that compensated me very well, and that annual bonus every year was quite nice. So I never I never felt I had the courage to go and strike out on my own, and not until I was laid off. And in 2011, and that began my journey on my entrepreneurial journey, where I looked at my wife and I said, well, we'll give it 6 months. And, and by grace, I was able to sit with her at the end of that 6 months and said, well, it seems to be working. We'll keep going. So we did. And that was back in 2012. And so lots of ups and downs. You shared with the audience about my diagnosis in 2006, right around that same time, with my neurological disease. And but life progressed, life continued. I mean, my business grew, and I was able to provide in the way that I wanted to and needed to provide, and was blessed to do great work with a lot of wonderful clients over the years, and still do that work today. Its shape has shifted over the years of who I serve, how exactly I serve them, but still do that work today. So I am in year, what would it be? I am in year 13 of my journey as an entrepreneur, as a coach, and still do that work today. Now, life tossed the curveball when the thought began to emerge, I wonder if I could climb a mountain, and which ultimately became climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, as you mentioned, climbing that in my wheelchair this September of 2025, founded at the beginning of 24, our nonprofit called My Impossible. And so I'm somewhat bivocational these days, or I have a vocation and an avocation, where I share my time is split. But what I've realized is the message behind My Impossible is as needed in the executive ranks and in C-suites with companies, not just as a talking point in a speech or in a workshop, but to be able to bring that in the very personal and intimate work that I get to do with executives as their coach, to bring that and those lessons and those stories and their stories alongside mine has been pretty amazing. And it's only begun. It's only just begun. I've only had the insight that there's power in bridging these two worlds in the last few months.
It's an amazing journey, and a couple of the twists and turns I want to ask you about. So you were in corporate America, and this is our future is kind, right? We're trying to think about, where is the kindness? What are we getting right? How do we build a kinder future? And so you were in corporate America, and then you were released from the golden handcuffs and into the opportunity to have more freedom and to govern your own path a little bit more closely. Can you tell me a little bit about what your experience was in corporate America, especially as it relates to kindness and how you approached other people during that time? I always, whenever I hear, golden handcuffs, and I think about my own corporate experiences, how much kindness were you showing yourself? That's a part of it.
Yeah, it's it's hard to remember exactly. I mean, while time has flown by, but um, I can say I can say my corporate experience was very good. I didn't have you know, the horror stories or the sad situations of dealing with toxic colleagues or environments. Was it ideal? No. But I feel very grateful for the 17 years or so that I spent in inside organizations. And even if I think about the first decade, uh, it was very much it wasn't a family business, but it just had this feeling of connection, and I was much younger. So maybe that had something to do with it. But in that decade, it was connection and friends and poker games on Saturdays um, and lunches out on Friday afternoons with colleagues. It was a very positive experience, and so for me, it was a seed of, I think, of who I wanted to be in the work world. And I had some fantastic mentors along the way. Some anti examples, some examples of people I didn't want to be like or to follow in their footsteps. Um, but again, it was a formative phase of my life that prompted me to want to help others in their professional journeys. I think the one piece that, if I think about, that I wish I would have had, that I am grateful to play this role today, is one of mentorship and coaching. Uh, Most of the organizations I was part of were very good at executing, and that was their focus, and that was fine. The absence of more clear mentoring and coaching, and so I feel fortunate to have been able to do that as a young leader, and then to continue to do that in my role as an external coach and consultant.
So the soup in which you were cooked was delicious, right? It had a certain flavor of that kindness and connection and that sort of family feel to it. Would you say that that flavor is one that you've now tried to infuse into your work as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as somebody who tries to help people find their way in whatever space they're navigating?
Because that was my unique journey, and that was that. Take, for example, when I moved from Florida after spending that first decade in that initial environment, when I came to New Jersey in 2005, it wasn't like that. And I missed it, what I had, but it was just different. And I think as a coach, I certainly don't step into those relationships with a prescription of what something needs to be. I think, I spoke about my characteristic of genuineness and authenticity. My desire is for the leader or leaders that I'm supporting and serving is that they authentically bring themselves to the context that they're in, and that it's not a prescription to follow what my experience was. I'm sure there's universal elements. Certainly there's universal elements in what I experienced, but this is about crafting an environment that is authentically reflective of that leader or those leaders in the environment and the context in which they find themselves.
So it sounds like it's an awful lot of really trying to see each client individually and then help them find their path.
Yes, yeah, because I think a lot of us, me included, we've operated in many ways by a whole list of shoulds and oughts of what we should do and what we ought to do. And when I came up, there was social media, but I compared and contrast myself and placed on my own shoulders a whole host of shoulds and oughts of what I should do or what I ought to do or who I should be or who I ought to be. And the world now with social media and here in the hyper information age, it's just overwhelming. The shoulds and the oughts. We often compare our insides to others' outsides. And so I think it's to break free of that and to come from a place of security in who I am, who the individual is. I was supporting my older daughter who's a junior in high school, and she's thinking about what does she want to be in the world, and I said, Maddie, I really don't care what you do. I said, what I care most about is that what you do is a reflection of what's most deeply important to you. And you find that out when you look at your values, when you look at your gifts. Now, of course, I want her to enjoy what she does, and my other daughter and and others in the world, those that I support and mentor. But I really could give a rip about the exact details of the job that she has, as long as it's with legal and integrity and the basic ticket to entry type stuff. So I guess that speaks to then coming back to how I view supporting my clients. We often will do, not always, but we'll often do a lot of work around values. Because as I said to her, most people in their life, they just sort of go on autopilot. They follow the trends, they follow a feeling, and they never really think about how they're showing up and what it is and how it is that they're doing whatever it is that they're doing. And so to get really intentional and thoughtful and slow down to think about these things, about what's important, what are your most deeply held values, that is a beginning point and a compass for then coming back to this idea of the environment that you create, whether it's a family type environment or something else in which you are leading.
I love what you were saying about we tend to compare our insides to other people's outsides. And this idea that your daughter should pursue things that are genuinely valuable to her, things that are within her belief system, her value system. In terms that I like to use it feels like you want people to be kind to themselves by being truthful about who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, truthful, I think, about who they are, who they're called to be in this world. Um, I think that speaks to, I think I like that expression. Let's be honest and truthful with ourselves. Because the fact of the matter, the world is absolutely ready to place on us who they want us to be. And when I say the world, I mean the world at large, the political structure, the economic structure, the work environment. They are more than willing and ready to place on us this mantle of who they want us to be in the world. I mean, goodness sakes, we live in a from a social media standpoint, this economy, this economy where they're analyzing where we click and what we're listening to. They are ready just to put right in front of our face what they want to sell us and the messages they want us to be listening to. So this idea of being bold and courageous to be truthful with yourself about this is who I am, this is what I believe, these are my values. It takes a lot of courage to do that because it's very easy to not do it.
Yeah, courage is a key component of kindness as well. There are so many times when we are faced with those outside forces that are trying to shape us in unkind ways, for us to be able to speak our truth and then also try to do it in a kind fashion, to say unabashedly, this is who I am, but that doesn't mean I'm devaluing the advice that you've provided me with or the ways that you see the world. I want to dig into something that I saw you had posted, where you are part of a men's group. I am also part of a men's group. I find it very enriching to go to a place where we can share our truths and be amongst others who kind of get it and want to hear us and challenge us.
Mm.
I wanted to dig into that a little bit because I feel like that's something worth talking about. Are you willing to share just a little bit about your experience in the men's group?
Yeah, well, I'm involved with several groups of collection of men. I think the one you might be referring to that I've posted about is F3. F3 is an outdoor men's workout group.
That's the one. Yep.
And the 5 core principles of F3 are it's always outdoors, rain or shine. And that's especially challenging like right now because this morning was 0 degrees at 5:30 this morning in New Jersey. But this wasn't one of the days I go to F3, but it's always outdoors, rain or shine, hot or cold, open to all men, peer-led, ends in a circle of trust, and always free. So there is no cost to being a part of this group. And so I got plugged into F3 at the end of 2022 when I had, through a mentor, had clear indication that I needed a squad.
Mm.
I needed friends. I just turned 50 this past year. And even then it was a year and a half, 2 years before that. I knew that this was a big hole that existed in my life and needed this. And we're a bunch of knuckleheads. I mean, the other men's groups I'm a part of, we sit around a fire and we really dig into story, but just to be part of a circle of friends as a 50-year-old to make new friends is quite a proposition.
Yes.
It's quite a proposition. it's not easily done. And so for me to now have a circle of men who I can call people that I can count on, that I can, in those few minutes of our circle of trust, share what's happening for me. It's a powerful element of my life. I can't imagine my life without F3 at this stage. So, and I think sometimes, how long will I do this? I'll do this as long as I can, because it's a place where I can show up. And as a wheelchair user, I have to adapt everything. They don't program the workouts for me. And so I'm often what we call an F3, the 6, which is the back end. And there's always somebody there alongside me as the 6. Oftentimes I'm the 6 to support me and to make sure that I'm not left behind.
Cool. I love the way that you describe it, that these are people that you can count on. Mm. And that must cultivate this sense of belonging. You mentioned also that you are a wheelchair user, and you've mentioned your diagnosis. I'm wondering, can we dig into that just a little bit?
Sure.
And how has that shaped your perspective of your fellow human beings and your ability to belong, and those outside forces that would try to shape you into something, whether you want to be shaped there or not? How has your perspective changed since the diagnosis?
Well, it's actually an evolving understanding. I was diagnosed in 2006, transitioned to life in the wheelchair in 2017. And I do not, while I often in certain situations will feel limited or disabled in some way, I don't live my life seeing myself or thinking about myself as disabled. And while that's okay, and that's fine for me, my evolving sense is I have a role. Just because I can make something work in spite of my physical situation, I have a job as a person who sees the world from a different perspective, to think not just about myself and can I make this work, but to think about the next person. And then even to open the eyes of others to the realities of and the importance of including and supporting the inclusion of those that live with, whether it be a visible or an invisible disability.
So you take on these inspirational roles. Is that somehow blended into this sense of, I don't know, I guess setting a tone, thinking about that other person? Is that where this comes from?
I don't know that it started that way, but it's very quickly realized that by me stepping out and doing life the way that I do it, is a testimony and testament to other people of what is possible. And it's not a look at me, hey, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm out here, so you should feel bad about yourself for not being out here. This is just simply about, I can be an example of what could be for another. I went to an F3 workout in Florida when I was visiting my family in December, My brother does F3 as well down there, and we went to a workout, and I showed up as normal, and did the workout, was welcomed, and we went home. My brother texted me a few weeks later, and he was in a conversation at a workout after that point, and they didn't know that he was my brother, but they were talking about this guy that showed up to a workout in a wheelchair, and how this individual who was speaking was feeling pretty down and just not feeling very motivated in his life. And he saw me, and he was strengthened and emboldened to be able to step into the things that he was facing in his life. And my brother, I don't know if he ever revealed who he was, but he was a witness and got to hear this conversation. And so I realized that even if not a single word is ever said, that by choosing to live the way I do, not just Kilimanjaro or Spartan races, but going to Costco and pushing those enormous shopping carts around that store, which I did yesterday, that even if no one says a word to me, that is a symbol that more is possible than what my circumstances might dictate.
It is part of my philosophy that in the darkest of spaces, even a single tiny light can cast an awful lot of hope and illuminate so many things. A big piece of the "our future is kind" mentality is trying to look at what our future should look like, right? You cannot hit a target if you haven't established the target. And the other piece of that is, what are all of those brave acts of kindness that it's going to take to get us there? And so if you'll indulge me for a second, I want to pull you into the "our future is kind" mode and ask you to envision with me. It is 2125. Humanity's been doing all of the right things. We've been doing excellent work. We've been kind to each other. We've been supportive. We have made technological progress, obviously. But what do you see that ideal future as looking like? Who's there? How do we interact? Anything that comes to mind in that ideal state?
I think it's love. I think so. One of my core values is the phrase "love is a verb," and so I think it's not a homogeneous society. It's a world where there's love, and one could love and be loved, and be and be different in how they think and what they believe. Doesn't mean I or someone, a future a version of me that's 100 years from today, isn't going to agree with everybody, but is going to stand on their principles and stand on their beliefs and their values and be very passionate about it, and at the same time be able to disagree. I think, we hear a lot, we are in the most divisive age of our society, at least here in the United States. So I think what in one way it would look like is this the shared experience in that we are different and accepting of that, but also passionate about about the truth and about what is most important to most important to each individual.
So it's that opportunity for all of us to, in the future, or I guess future us's, to flourish as they are, and be accepting of each other.
Well, again, acceptance is funny because I think you can love without acceptance. I know that may sound very strange, but if I see someone living a life that is, again, with respect and kindness and gentleness, to be able to say to another, I disagree with you, and here's what I see. So love doesn't have to be acceptance. Love is love. Yeah. But that we can, in love, say to another, I see it differently. There's a different way, a better way, as I see it, and that you can engage in that conversation without feeling like you're, in some places in our country and world, that your life is at risk.
So the fearlessness with which we can share our ideas and ourselves is one of those measures that you hope is really high in the future.
Yes.
I love that. So the second part of the question, if our future is going to be kind, what are the kind acts? What are the brave, courageous things that we need to be doing right now to build that future?
Well, I think it starts with the next generation. It starts with, so if I think about who is present there in my lineage in 100 years, it's going to be, at a minimum, my grandchildren and probably great-grandchildren. And so what needs to be here today is a deep investment in values. As I said before, deep investment in values and clarity on what you believe, and on this idea of love. And so I think that's the action is, what's the Whitney Houston song? I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and help them lead the way. And so I think that is the most important thing that we do, because I won't be here. Yeah. And likely even my daughters won't be here in 100 years. But their kids and their grandkids will be here. And so what 100 years from now will be is what has been invested in each of those subsequent generations.
I love the thought of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren benefiting from the hard conversations, the courage that we're going to have over the next generation at least to get there. We're almost at the end of our time, and I can't believe it's passed so quickly, but I want to end here, if it's all right with you. You're somebody who inspires, right? You don't necessarily think of yourself as somebody who has to do these things, but you're choosing to do these great inspirational things. What inspires you?
I think it's stories. I think people being willing to share their stories. I have a podcast of my own called the My Impossible Podcast, where we ask about other people's stories. I think that's one of the reasons why movies and still books, thankfully today, these epic stories, but also this very simple shares and stories. You live in the Carolinas, and hearing some of the stories that flowed out of Hurricane Helene, and even some of the stories we're starting to hear coming out of the fires in Southern California. But stories inspire me. Stories of the human spirit triumphing over sometimes devastating circumstances, I mean, I'm a sucker for a great sports movie because, take Rudy or the, a track and field movie or, but I'm a sucker for those movies. I love 30 for 30s on ESPN. But again, to answer your question, I think it's story, not a particular person or a particular story even, but what I see as an opportunity for us is to empower people to share their stories. I have one client who is part of a men's circle, and inside his organization, he tries to cultivate a similar culture as exists around the fire, where people share their stories. And I believe there is no insignificant story. So that's what inspires me.
Well, you've given us a lot of things to check out here. So those of you who've been listening or watching, hopefully you took a couple of notes. But if you didn't, this is all going to be in the show notes, including Rudy and Remember the Titans and any of those other great things.
That's the name of the movie. I was trying to think. Denzel Washington, Remember the Titans.
There you go. Yeah, no, such a great film. Such a great film. But yeah, Jeff Harmon, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us and envision a kinder future.
You're welcome, Michael. It's my pleasure.
The kindness challenge for this episode. Look into joining a community or redoubling your commitment to a community you already belong to. As Jeff found community in a group of men doing challenging workouts, rain or shine, perhaps your community is more spiritual, or it's a political organization, a charitable one, or perhaps one focused on fun activities such as knitting, playing board games, or looking for treasures in the wild, like geocaching. By investing in bonding with others who care about similar things, but who might come from very different backgrounds, you expose yourself to different kinds of people and allow yourself to bond outside of your typical communities. Want to get inspired and think about how to make the world kinder and build that beautiful future together? Check out Jeff Harmon's podcast, My Impossible Podcast, available on all major podcasting platforms. Check out this movie recommendation, Rudy. It's a great sports story about not giving up. Or check out this other movie, Remember the Titans. It's a great sports story about overcoming adversity. Thanks again for listening to our Future is Kind podcast, a podcast in search of a kinder future. Go out there and do something kind.